Good evening, everyone, and apologies for the technical difficulties. We're accountants, we're not IT gurus. So hopefully we'll make up by having some really decent content in this, and then alerting you to some decent issues that you sort of need to deal with when dealing with succession planning, and or an outright sale to a key person. Again, we're thankful that we have Sean from PBS Pharmacy Brokers helping us do the presentation. So, Sean, can I throw it over to you and let's start the presentation.
All right, excellent. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for giving up your Wednesday evening. We will keep it in context as good as we can to keep it within our time frame. So, as Tass said, a lot of you know me. I've seen who's on the list. My name's Sean Roffey. I'm the director of PBS Pharmacy Brokers. I am a licensed business broker and licensed real estate agent and have been since 2003. What I enjoy is seeing pharmacists buy and sell pharmacies. In particular, what I love is the young pharmacists, walking in on the day of settlement or on the day of takeover or the day of entering a partnership and seeing a smile on their face, standing behind that dispensary, serving customers, making money. So that's what I get out of what I do. And 20 years later, I started working at a wholesaler selling pharmacies, and actually 23 years later, I still love it. And I'll continue to hopefully progress that for a long time. I'm not ready for retirement. So Kimmy, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so tonight I've been lucky enough to help present to you succession planning and outright sales. So I must thank you, BDH, for that. I think it's an interesting topic, and a topic that I don't think crosses the mind of a lot of pharmacists. We do see there is a 5%, but there's still that 95% where people don't even think about succession planning. I think a lot of people think about outright sale, but I really want to put the focus tonight more onto succession planning, with a little bit at the end about outright sale. You will see there are some differences, and tonight's not designed for you to walk away knowing exactly the answer. Tonight's really designed for you to walk away asking yourself questions. And the questions could be, what direction best suits me? Can I work with a partner? Because ultimately a succession plan or a business succession or exit plan is you will be working with a partner. So can you work with a partner? So there are a couple of questions I want you to walk away with tonight. So you can either delve deeper with your partner, your life partner, or potentially delve deeper with a successor of your business. If we can go next slide. Yep, excellent. So what is a succession plan? So I've got 3 key points. It's a plan for progressive exit of a business. A plan should you as the owner leave the business through illness or death. And we don't really like talking about that, but it's reality. As we get older, it gets closer, sadly. And a business strategy to pass business management and or ownership to an employee. So a succession plan is a strategy for identifying and developing future leaders within your business. Okay, you on a daily basis, you've got pharmacists you're working with or pharmacists you're in communication with. You've got graduates within your business. So there's a massive pool of people that you could potentially bring into your business as a successor for yourself. A succession plan helps you prepare your business for all contingencies, whether they be illness and death, which we'll talk about a bit in more detail, or just the fact that you want to be, the older you get, you want to start traveling. You don't want to have to worry about your business on a daily basis. You want to be able to go away, have a predetermined time set that in 5 years I'm out of the door. I'm going to walk away. The goodwill is going to stay in the business, and someone else is going to do it. So a succession plan is planning for a successful exit and a successful handing over of goodwill to someone else. Okay. Pharmacy is very unique because your succession plan has to be to a pharmacist. unlike general business, where general business, it's a greater pool, pharmacy, your pool is obviously pharmacists. We're very lucky in pharmacy that Sydney University has such a very good pharmacy school. They teach business management, and I think we are starting to see more pharmacists come through with a business mind and would probably understand that succession planning is a good idea. The biggest issue I want to raise is just on this topic here quickly, is that someone you bring into your business that you're going to share your largest asset with, it just can't be an ad in the paper and take the first person. It's something that needs to be carefully thought of. You've got to be able to work with them. You've got to share your, everything with them. You probably spend more time with them than you would with your life partner. So choosing is very important. Sometimes it's easier to pass your business on to someone that you know. Let's just talk about illness and death. I can't see hands, but, I'd like to know, I bet you I could probably ask, let's preface it a different way, that who has a succession plan for if they do pass? You own a business, it's your largest asset. You've also got a family. Who's going to run your business? Who's going to sell your business? Do you have a plan for someone to take over your business? And this is what succession planning is all about. It's about understanding where your future is going and how you can control that. Bringing a junior partner in, coming in at 10%, and having a predetermined plan. If the worst does happen, there's plans in place that your family are going to be looked after. We'll go to the next slide, if we can, Kimmy. So this is probably the guts of it, really. Succession planning, finding a successor, not an easy task. I did touch on that, but you'll need to put processes in place to find the right successor. And they may start, a couple of years into your ownership of your pharmacy, if you're going to go down that track of business partner. So let's call it what it is. A succession plan is you go in partnership with a pharmacist for a period of time. You need to be able to work with the person. So whether or not, over the years you worked with graduates that came out of university that, really highlighted, you're really excited that they were a good operator, they had some business management skills, they were good with the customers, they were good with the staff. There's a really good starting point for someone that you could probably go into business with and become the successor. You need to put strategies in place also to find and also keep that successor, because you may not be in that mindset at that period of time, but you will need to keep the good people around you. Whoever you choose, you need to trust, okay? It's really important. It's not anyone. I did mention that previously. I highly recommend you have trials, and that's why I said you start this a long time out. You potentially get this successor into your business, and whilst you go on holidays, and let them have free rein, let them run the business. Give them opportunities to pay bills. We're moving around, but there we go. Yeah, let them pay bills. Let them run the business. Let them understand the business. Share your wealth of information and your knowledge, so these young pharmacists or upcoming pharmacists can have a go. The proposed successor will appreciate that opportunity. Ultimately, understanding how to run a business, understanding what comes with all that business management side. And the hardest thing we see, and hopefully there's some young pharmacists here listening, the hardest thing we see is young pharmacists get a little tied up on, I'm getting $60 an hour. Why would I go in partnership and only earn $45 an hour? Got to remember, when you are in a partnership, you're building wealth. It's not always about a wage. You get a wage for your hours you work in the business. You don't get a wage for the hours you work on it. That's the joys of owning a business. So building wealth and building a lifestyle is way greater than $15 an hour extra. Determining business value, because there's two sides of a succession plan. You have a buyer, ultimately, or a successor, and you have a vendor. Okay, the incoming and outgoing. both parties, I believe, need to do a valuation, and both parties need to be happy, with the outcome, and sit down, talk with their accountants, talk with the lawyers, and come up with a plan that forms part of your plan is valuation. I believe pharmacies, particularly in this situation, have three values. What we want to talk about is fair market value tonight, which I think sits middle to upper range of pharmacy values at the moment. We have bank values, which is the lowest, obviously, because the bank takes a very conservative approach. We have fair market value, which is a new term for me, FMV, being, let's just say, $1 million. And then we have market or high market, which would be after negotiation, let's say $1.05 million. Okay, because if you're doing a succession plan, you're not necessarily sending your pharmacy to the market. You're doing an independent negotiation with a incoming pharmacist. Do you really want to squeeze every last cent that this person has got, that they're financially up to here, stressing about how they're going to make their next payment whilst they're doing script? So I think that's why I'm developing the term fair market value for succession planning. I think it's the best way around it. And by appointing two valuers to help determine that, either being a bank valuer to look at a market value, or even a business broker like myself with years of experience to help you with that. Developing strategies together is going to help that junior partner, successor, develop business ethics, and that's really what you need. You need someone that understands business. You're not going to get a partner there just to stand behind the counter and dispense script. You want someone there that can run your business, so you can go overseas, or you can play golf, or you can look after the grandkids. That's what it's all about. You want to strip off that goodwill that's on your back to this new person so the business can keep going. In fact, the ultimate goal is for the business to keep going up, to keep growing. So the right person is going to drive your business and actually put more money in everyone's pockets. So you need to sit down together and develop the strategies. So some of the strategies are, financing options. How are you going to finance? How is a young incoming going to finance? Bringing a partner into the business, does that change the global financing position of the pharmacy? Staffing concerns, because there's a partner coming in, does that affect other pharmacists within the business? How many hours, are you each going to work in the business? Who's going to get paid for what they do in the business? Do you get paid for working in the business? Do you get paid for working on the business? And the answer is no. I think the answer is no. That's the joys of owning a business, as mentioned earlier. And again, I'll harp on it. You don't get paid overs. You get paid, a lower market rate for your hours in the business. But then the big point there is, how much is the outgoing going to sell in the first tranche of ownership purchase to the buyer? Okay, so its succession plan is, in essence, a progressive buyout. So let's just say a young pharmacist comes in, says, I can afford to buy your business by 10%. There is a plan in place that initially they'll buy 10%. It's a very clear plan. It's a legal document with an end date. And we'll talk further about that in the next couple of minutes. The implementing strategies is important, and now part of the implementing strategies is team. And I have done another seminar with BDH, and I talked about team, and your team is your lawyer, your accountant, and your bank. And I will say with this one, understanding value. So you're going to need to either have a business broker like myself that understands pharmacy values, or you're going to have a bank valuer involved as well. So you found a successor, you've appointed lawyers, you've appointed a bank that's going to handle it, you've met with the accountant to discuss structures, you've advised your landlord. There's a lot to it, that you'll be changing the entity of ownership potentially, and I think Jeed and Taz are going to talk about that in a couple of slides, and you have a date of implementation. So it's really, you have to press the go button. initially your accountant will set up structures. You'll have a partnership accountant. They'll set up structures for you, which are best going to utilise. Also, implementing strategies as part of the timeline, which is next, you've also got Pharmacy Council and Medicare. So we've got the regulatory bodies that we have to also bring into this picture as well, let them know what's going on. So, you know, when we go and talk about timeline, there's really getting to the start point. There's no definitive timeline. It's once that takeover happens, that's when you've got a definitive timeline, because there's an agreement or contract in place. Okay, and it's that agreement and contract which paves the way for the future on how this partnership is going to work. That agreement or contract or put call option, whatever you call it, will also have, you know, should the partnership not work out in that, let's just say, 5-year agreement, it'll have a way out for each party as well, because good things sometimes come to an end, and good things don't work sometimes, and it has happened. And we've all heard about the partnerships that don't work, but we never hear about the partnerships that do work, and there are plenty of them that do work. There's quite a few pharmacy groups that do a lot of this sort of thing, and I think 1 or 2 of them are on tonight. And kudos to you. I think it's a great way of developing staff and people into pharmacy. So as I said, there's no definitive timeline. It's just once you get to the start, then your agreement takes over. Your agreement's got the timeline in there. And I'm just don't want to get too much into the detail of partnership shareholders agreement. I'm not a lawyer. They are pretty gutsy, and I think you'd need a very pharmacy specific lawyer and someone that has done partnerships before. I'm pretty sure you're in agreement to that, Tass.
Oh, absolutely, totally there, Sean. And I think what's important in terms of the partnership or a shareholders agreement is basically to document everything that Sean has talked about in terms of the roles, responsibilities, remuneration, entry, exit, all that sort of stuff, in terms of the successful person that you've found to sort of take over in the business. And the put and call option is an important thing. There's no point in bringing someone in and saying, here, you've got 20% and here's your buy-in and give me $200,000 unless there is a plan in place that takes out the remaining 80%, because that new partner in the business cannot force you to sell the remaining 80% of the business, and neither are you, unless you've got a mechanism in place that allows you to do it, neither can you force that new partner to buy a greater percentage in the business over a period of time unless there is a mechanism there. And that's why something like a put and call option is an important thing with some sort of time horizon, you know, for each tranche, whether that be 2, 3, 4, 5 years, at 10% or 20%, but something must be put in the document that allows that transition to happen over a period of time.
Yep.
So that's all I wanted to say on that point.
Yep.
Can I take over the next slide, Sean? Or
that's your slide, that one. Awesome.
Keyman Insurance, and Sean talked about previously what happens in the event of someone dying in the business. And I suppose if you're the pharmacist that is bringing in a younger person and selling them a 20% stake, that's not an issue. Because generally, if something was to happen to that pharmacist, you would be able to deal with the estate of that pharmacist and pay them out. And there needs to be a mechanism in your shareholders agreement that has that a buy-sell agreement in place. This is probably more critical to the younger person that's just come in, that's got a 10% or a 20% stake in the business, that really probably needs to get some life cover on the majority shareholder, because if they were to get hit by a bus crossing the street, they're in a position where unless there is a buy-sell agreement, they would be in a position where they would have to deal with the estate and come to an arrangement whereby they either sell the business together and they each go their merry ways, or it would be quite messy. A buy-sell agreement basically is a mechanism that says that if someone passes away, then the estate has to sell that share to the surviving partner. Okay, and then what generally happens is there's an insurance policy that's taken out by that surviving partner where the benefits get paid to that surviving partner to give over to the estate. Does that make sense? Or have I?
It makes sense.
So basically, yeah. So you're covering each other's lives and you're paying out the benefit to the estate so that you don't have to deal with someone's spouse in managing the business. Okay. Can I get you to go on to the next slide, please, Kimmy? And we can talk about taxation, because obviously if you're going to sell down a percentage of your business, there is going to be a tax impact. And it's important to understand what that tax impact is. And it all comes down to what the value of the pharmacy is as compared to when it was when you bought it, and hopefully it's increased in value. There have been some cases where we're looking at restructuring some pharmacies where the value has actually gone the other way. So, I mean, that throws some interesting restructuring stuff in the mix. So you've got to understand what is going to be the tax impact and what tax cost you're going to have, because you are going to have a tax cost. And generally that tax cost is going to be, depending on how you're structured, it could be anywhere between 23.5% of the capital gain up to your marginal rate of tax 47%, depending on how you're structured. And so that's an important thing to understand what your tax position is before you start talking to someone about admitting them into the business or not. In terms of small business, there is some tax relief available. And I'll go to the next slide, if I could please, Kimmy. And there's 4 concessions that are generally available to a practitioner. If you're selling down a business, or if you're selling a stake in the business, the first one probably won't apply, but certainly you can apply the second, third, and fourth one. Generally, these 4 business concessions mean that you can effectively reduce a capital gain to almost nothing. You can use 1, 2, or a combination of all those 4 concessions. I'll briefly touch on all of them. The 15-year exemption basically says that if you get rid of a business, you're over the age of 55, you've held it in its current form for 15 years or more, and the sale happens in connection with your retirement, you can basically get away without paying any capital gains tax. There's a small business 50% active asset reduction, which effectively allows you to reduce any capital gain that you may have by 50% before you actually can use the general CGT discount. So you get a 50% discount potentially, and then potentially get another 50% on the remaining balance. The third concession allows you to put a maximum of up to $500,000 in your lifetime into super and not pay any capital gains tax. And the fourth concession allows you to roll over any capital gain that you may have from the sale of your interest or your business into another business. So you might want to sea change and go buy yourself a little cafe up or down the coast. You can roll over whatever capital gain that you make on the sale of your pharmacy into the acquisition of another business. So next slide, please, Kimmy.
That's the same, obviously, just say you're selling 20% of your business initially to a young partner. Okay. Yep. So how do they calculate it then? Because you're not selling your entire business. So you're not selling your entire business. You're not realising full value.
Going back to that slide, please, Kimmy. That's what I was saying before. You'd probably use 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
To do that.
Okay.
And one thing that's important here is that you maintain at least a 20%. At the end of it, you own at least have 20% ownership in this business in some way, shape, or form, so that you can access those concessions, because that's one of the tests. But before you're able to get a look into these tests, the asset that you're selling must be an active asset. So obviously, the pharmacy will qualify. The pharmacy will qualify as being an active asset. In a lot of occasions too, the pharmacists own the building. And because it's connected to the pharmacy, that can also be classified as an active asset. So you can potentially access those small business concessions too on the sale of the building, because generally, you might have the sale of the business happening this year, but in 5 years' time, you might have the sale of the building happening. You can always go back and access those small concessions. To access those 4 concessions, you must be worth your business assets, excluding your family home and private assets. Your net position must be less than $6 million. So there's a test that, and that's why it's important before you go down this path. It's important to understand what your tax position is, because you might have some tax to pay, or you may not have some tax to pay, depending on where you obviously sit with being able to access these small business concessions for capital gains tax purposes.
Is there any talk of that asset test being increased with the price of property we're seeing right now?
I haven't seen anything. I think it was increased from 5 million to 6 million probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I haven't seen anything to say that it's going to go from 6 to 7 or from 6 to 8. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, there's been no. Well, I haven't heard any talk of that either. There's been obviously there's other tests where they've increased it to 10 million for other like tax concessions. So that would be a logical next step, but they haven't. Neither parties talked about increasing at this stage.
Look, these concessions, for them to go to 10 million, it would be a really big step, because these concessions effectively allow you to get away from paying capital gains tax on the sale of a business asset. And, no government likes to let go of a bit of tax revenue. And one thing that they haven't increased is that retirement exemption, allowing you to put $500,000 into super. Ever since these provisions were enacted, that number at 500,000 has always been that cap. So yeah, I have not heard it move.
Yeah, but just to clarify that cap though, it's 500,000 capital gains tax, but you can actually put in over 1.5 million into super. So there's another cap on how much you can get into super, but you can only save up to 500,000 in capital gains in your lifetime. So there's 2 caps. So as Tass was saying, it's very important to know your tax position and know what some of these concessions are, prior to undertaking any restructure or sale or introducing a new partner.
Okay.
That's it from a tax point of view.
Yeah, excellent.
Let you go on with an outright sale.
Well, outright sale, I think it really speaks for itself. What is an outright sale? An outright sale is when you present your business to the market with a great broker, and you walk out the door with a backpack on, and that backpack is all the money that you made when you're walking out the door. And that's, to be honest, that's the goodwill. Okay, the goodwill that you have when you outright sell a pharmacy, the buyer doesn't necessarily get to keep that goodwill, because you've built your business under you and you walk out that door. So the onus is then on the buyer to have to do the hard work to maintain that business and strip that goodwill out of that backpack as you're running out the door. Okay, so this typically it's about 95% of sales are outright sales, probably a little higher than that. We don't traditionally see a lot of succession planning, but I think with pharmacy values increasing as they are right now, I think succession planning is going to be high on the agenda for many people, because the young pharmacists just aren't going to be able to get into the market. We go to the next slide, Kimmy. So steps to an outright sale. Look, bread and butter for me. It's prepare a business. So you as a vendor should be running your business every day like you're going to sell it. So just in case the worst thing's happening, you need to you need to be running your business just in case, one, you take ill or you do unfortunately die, so your family member then can step in and sell that for you, or an administrator can sell it for you. So your business should be prepared all the time. Okay, a little tip I get too often, I see pharmacists come across my desk saying I want to sell, and I look at their numbers, and you know, the year they want to sell, the GP's dropped 5%, and they've just been on a round the world trip. You know, we know how they paid for that, don't we? So, you know, just be ready. Got to be ready. I guess appoint an agent. There are other agents out there, so yep, you know, whoever you choose, and that's fine. So you need to appoint an agent. Don't be fooled by the person knocking on your door. The person knocking on your door obviously wants to get ahead of the market and buy a business for a cheaper value, in my opinion. I've seen it all too often. Then people come knocking on my door, we put it to the market, and we get a better value. You need to evaluate your business value to current market, and that's that high market we call. So when you're selling a business on the open market, you're selling to the high market because it's a negotiation. You could have 5 people offering your business at any one time, and the whole goal of that is to extract best value. And I know there's some buyers there. It's the same as real estate. You know, we're not doing anything illegal. We're just working for the vendor and letting the market dictate the value. Okay.
Sean, just on the value.
Yep.
You know, you and I have talked about values and how they've moved quickly. Do you want to explain it to people that are on the webinar and what sort of happened in terms of cap rates?
Yep.
That's probably in the last 12 months.
Well, it's probably an even smaller period than that, because I'll give you a really good example. Without giving too much away, pharmacy in Sydney, 2 mil turnover, 300 grand net profit, tidy business, good opportunity. Just sold for $2.55 million, which is 11.98% return on investment. Now, it's a pharmacy in a residential area, smallest site. It can't really relocated, and it's getting premium dollars. It deserves premium dollars. It's a pharmacy in Sydney, but 11.98% return. Now,
and where would that have sort of sat 12 months ago? 12
months ago, that was sitting at about 15%. 15.5% return, but seems to be just as we come into post-Christmas, so past Christmas, it's just the market has been, I guess the COVID slumber's gone. We've awoken from this COVID issues, whilst we've still got a lot of issues at pharmacy level with COVID and staff. Even with interest rates moving, we've 11.98% in Sydney. Just I never thought we'd see it. I've seen it because it was through my agency, good luck to the vendors at the moment. I think they're going to ride pretty high for 6 months to 12 months with returns that low, so higher values. We haven't got a crystal ball. We don't know where the market's going. We don't know what interest rate rises will do, and how much it may impact or when it will impact. So yeah, it's very high at the moment. That answers your question, Tess?
Oh, look, I think it's important to have someone like you that knows what's going on in the marketplace, because I mean, one of the points you made was having someone knock on your door before everyone else does, and they're obviously looking at an opportunity to buy at a lower price. But someone like you that's got their ear to the ground, that knows that these are the sort of the cap rates that are being thrown around, can obviously enhance the value of the pharmacist wanting to get out and maximise, the money.
Yeah, indeed. So I think the door knocker is really wanting to pay just, let's call it that FMV, fair market value, or maybe even a little lower than that. But they're not going to pay the high market, which is a negotiated range, which is with 5 people offering on a business to extrapolate the best value out of it. So yeah, we'll go back. So then the broker obviously presents the business to the market, talks to 5, 6, 10, 15 people, depends how the broker handles it. Some of them mass market, some don't. I don't need to. Give it to a unique group, talk to accountants. You get a lot of buyers from qualified buyers too, from accountancy firms. And then just progress into offer and acceptance and progress to settlement. I think myself, outright sale, today is not versus, it's not succession plan versus outright sale. I will say outright sale is a quicker process, probably a cleaner process, because there's one contract that gets signed for exchange, and that's what we're talking about: offer acceptance, progress to settlement. So an exchange of contract, progressing into probably 2 or 3 months later into a settlement where you put your backpack on and you walk out the door with the money. And I do finish off there by saying you need to be prepared to walk away from the business. You don't always get that opportunity to be invited back to work in the business. It does happen. Some vendors don't want to work back in the business. They're selling for a reason. They're tired. Right now, they're tired with staff getting COVID, children getting COVID, juggling COVID, and all of that. Back in the early days of COVID, when they had to have their pharmacies scrubbed down, at quite a cost as well. I think people are tired. So that's why people are willing to walk away from their business. So I think they're the steps. Outright sale is, to me, pretty simple, but I can really see the benefits of succession planning. Succession planning has its place, particularly if you want to give back as an owner and you want to bring that young pharmacist through and see more of a progression with your customers to a new pharmacist within your business, and watch them flourish as you just fade away. Your 5-year goal is to be out of the business, and watch this young person, successfully being you. So yeah, I guess that's really what it's all about, succession planning. So yeah,
Absolutely.
but I'm not saying one's better than the other. So, again, as I said at the beginning, I want you to walk away going, well, what would I do? What if you're not looking at it now, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, what is right for you? What will be right for you? And you start that thought process, because I think understanding your direction is really important.
Absolutely. And there is no one shoe fits all.
No.
And sometimes you actually do need to have some sort of succession plan to keep really good staff and to keep really good pharmacists. And sometimes I've seen it reinvigorate people by having new talent buy into the business. Any other comments, Jude, that you want to make before we get to questions and answers? He's muted.
Sorry, I was on mute there. So it's very important that, and as Sean was saying, that if you're looking at exiting the business and looking at selling it, it is a simple process. But if you are looking at getting a new person in, having a look at the structure as well. We didn't spend much time talking about partnership companies, different types of structures. That's probably something for maybe another presentation. But that's also important as well, because whether you have a shareholders agreement, partnership agreement, there's some ways that are a little bit easier and a little bit harder, particularly going through the pharmacy board, the applications and processes that you need to do. So the type of structure can also be important, and that's something to consider when you are looking at restructuring or bringing in new partners.
And that's why it's important to have a team. Ultimately, I've mentioned the team part, and you need the team. Particularly for succession planning, it's very important. You need the people that understand how to do it and who can work for you and in your best interests as well.
Absolutely. Any questions?
Now, how are we doing the questions on the chat or the?
Kimmy, if you can.
It might be easy if they want to type in something on the chat. We can. I can read those out for you if you like.
And if you're shy, we do take. You can connect with us on email or phone after as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not tonight, but tomorrow.
Tomorrow's fine.
Yeah.
I guess we were pretty clear. There's no questions coming through.
Well, that's good. No questions.
Okay. Well, thank you all for spending a bit of time with us tonight on probably the first chilly night in Sydney we've had for a long time. Hopefully you got something out of us and some valuable information from us in relation to succession planning or an outright sale. Our contact details are there on the screen. This presentation is being recorded, and so you'll be able to view it, and there'll be a link to the slides and to the actual content of this presentation being emailed to everyone. There will also be the next webinar that we're going to be conducting is going to happen on the 8th of June at midday. And it's about achieving high yield in returns on investments with low risk. So an invitation to that webinar will be coming out in the next 24 hours as well. So look out for that, and we'd love for you to join us. We've got a good presenter on there about an alternative investments on what you can do to generate some, obviously passive income on the profits that you've generated from your pharmacy. If there's nothing else, good night to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Sean, last words?
Just thank you. Look, I'm always contactable. Phone's on to 8 o'clock every night. So anyone wants to chat about their future or pharmacy values, or particularly their pharmacy value, or if you're a pharmacist looking to buy a pharmacy, give me a call, give me an email. It's all there, easy to find on the internet as well. So happy to chat.
Great. Thank you for your time, Sean. Jude.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no, same thing. Yeah, so thank you, Sean. I'd like to thank Sean again as well for giving up his time to do this, but because there's a lot of valuable information in there, and as I said, the contact details are on there for Sean and for us. A lot of you know who your direct partner is. You can just give us a call or send us an email if you've got any questions, and we can answer those for you.
Fantastic. Thank you all, and good night, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Good night. See you guys.
Thank you.